Alegi is a professor of history at Michigan State University. He is also the author of African Soccerscapes: How a Continent Changed the World's Game. Peter, thanks so much for joining our program. First of all, this year's World Cup is expected to reach a record in viewership, a whopping 1 billion people worldwide. It is just incredible. Why do you think women's football in particular has become so popular?
I think there's several reasons. The first is that women players have shown an unwavering commitment and love for the game that has allowed them to keep the game alive despite discrimination and inequality. And I think institutions are starting to treat the women's game with greater dignity and respect. And you can see this in the way that FIFA, for example, is marketing the Women's World Cup with kind of standardized branding that looks exactly like the men's tournament. The media broadcasts are also of high quality, and there's a lot of corporate sponsors that seem to be eager to be part of the project. The last thing I want to point out is that women's club football is undergoing some very interesting changes all around the world, in Europe and North America and parts of Asia. We have the NWSL in the United States that has lasted longer than any other women's professional league. And in Spain this year, we had the game between Atletico Madrid and Barcelona draw 60,000 fans. In Italy, Juventus Fiorentina, 40,000. These are incredibly exciting numbers, and all of these factors account for the growing popularity of the game today.
Let's turn to the players themselves. There's, of course, been a lot of attention on the top contenders, the U.S., Germany, France. But let's talk about these other countries, like China, for instance. What are we expecting from its team this time around?
Well, China lost its opening match just a few hours ago to Germany. It was a robust match and a acerbic one at times, but being ranked 16th in the world, I think China did reasonably well. We should remember that four of the best third-place teams in each of the groups also go through to the round of 16. So a 1-0 loss against the favored Germans, I think, is actually a pretty good result for China, with South Africa up next, an inexperienced South Africa playing in its first World Cup, and Spain, which I thought was not terribly strong in the match against South Africa. So I think if China can get a little more creativity in the midfield and some more bite up front, with perhaps starting Wang Shuang from the beginning of the match, unlike today, I like China's chances to make it to the second round and perhaps equal its 2015 quarterfinal finish.
And you touched on this, Peter. There's, of course, been some controversy surrounding pay in women's football in the U.S. The women's team filed a gender discrimination suit against the U.S. Soccer Federation. How much do you think this will overshadow the World Cup, or rather, do you think the World Cup will actually draw more attention to it?
I'm not sure. I mean, the Americans seem to have set their differences aside temporarily for the tournament, meaning the players, the squad, and the officials. The women filed their suit on International Women's Day on March 8th of this year, I think, really trying to bring out the symbolism of this action. But I think their concerns are real. They're being paid considerably less than their male counterparts on the U.S. National team. There's bonus disparity. The highest paid men's player earns, nearly $200,000 more than the highest paid women's player. And women are much more dependent on national team pay than men, who have, of course, a lucrative club game to rely on. I think for the women, they have something to prove, both in terms of trying to repeat the victory of 2015 as World Cup champions, but also to show U.S. soccer that they most definitely deserve equal pay because they're doing equal work as men.
Peter Alegi with Michigan State University, thank you so much for your perspective today.